Hello everyone. I'm very excited about this video. I have been wanting to make this for a while. I grew up in the state of Maine, and I grew up about a couple hours from Boston, and my grandmother has a classic Maine accent, which essentially when she travels around the country, people think she's from Boston because the Maine accent is kind of like it's basically like a Boston accent, but it sometimes can sound a little bit like drunker or a little bit, I don't know, a little bit different, but it's like, it has a lot in common with the Boston accent. So
kind of like Boston, but cooler and a bit more drunk. Like, we gotta go up to Baja, but I get some lobster supper.
For, the purpose of the video, we're basically just going to say that my grandma has basically a Boston accent. So
I can put on you gotta park the car and have the yard and give the guy a quarter for some chowder. That's a standard Boston accent right there.
The way she talked has always entertained me and inspired me to be interested in this. And I always wondered, I can listen to the New York accent, the classic New York accent. I can hear it and I know that it's different than the Boston accent, but I don't really know how it's different. So I wanted to actually analyze what is the difference? What is it that they're doing differently with their mouth that makes it sound that way? I'm not an expert on this. I have a standard American accent. This is just a very standard accent. It's rhotic. I pronounce my R's very R, strongly. The thing about the Boston and the New York accent is that they're non-rhotic. So they both don't really pronounce R's. So in that sense, they're actually kind of more like British and less like American, but they don't sound like British at all because they're mixed with a lot of other American influences. So they're definitely very famous American accents, but it is interesting that historically they have been non-rhotic, which originally the reason why they don't pronounce the R's is because of British influence, but other aspects of their speaking are super American. So it's just basically a mix. And I'm obviously generalizing in this video. There are multiple accents in New York. There's variations, there's different, New York City has 5 different boroughs. There's different variations, obviously, but I'm just kind of generalizing for this video. And it's just my opinion and my perspective. So don't take it too seriously. I just wanted to share what I know about this and how I perceive it. So for me, the main difference between New York and Boston, talking about the accent, of course, is the fact that in so many words and sounds, the New York mouth is smaller and the Boston mouth is bigger, wider. So New York, they keep the mouth smaller, Boston, bigger, wider. So we see this in words like water. I say water. Water is standard American English. But in New York, they're going to say something like water, water, water. You see how small my mouth is? Water, water, water. In Boston, they're going to open it up and they're going to say water, water, wah, wah. So New York, water, Boston, water, water. They both are saying at the end, right? They don't say water. They say water, water, the ER at the end is just But the way they start the word water is very unique to Boston and New York. Water, water. So we're going to see this pattern again and again. So let's look at some other examples. The word car. Now, I would say car. We always make fun of my grandma because she says car. So she doesn't say car, she says car. So they don't say park the car, they say park the car. So this is a classic Boston thing, park the car. Now, New York is also not pronouncing the R, of course, but the jaw is a little bit dropped, it's a little bit lower. The sound rests a little bit lower in the mouth. So it's not up here with the park the car, it's park the car, park the car. It's a little bit more British sounding. I'm almost shit, am I saying this too much British English? I'm wondering in my head because it's closer. It's closer because it's a little bit lower. It's a little bit more reserved. It's not up in the it's park the car. Boston is out here saying park the car, big open mouth, park the car, wide, park the car. New York, park the car, park park the car. New York has that really like small mouth on a lot of words. Another example, coffee. People love to make fun of New Yorkers in the way they say coffee, coffee, coffee. We see this in words like talk, walk. New York is going to say like talk, walk, or. So it's a lot of, New York loves the sound or. Hey, I'm walking here. You have words like daughter. Boston is going to say daughter, daughter. New York is going to say daughter, daughter. So you have daughter and you have daughter, daughter. New York, it kind of sounds cooler. I will agree with that. I will give it to you. New York sounds cooler, even though my heritage is more closer to Boston. But New York, it does sound cool. It goes with that vibe of like the cool New Yorker. You know, Boston doesn't have such a cool sound and a cool kind of vibe. I personally think Boston sounds a little bit more like white trash, like a little bit more like redneck or like a little bit more trashy than New York. But that's just my opinion, I guess. It's just an accent. Another one I like is the word argue. So we normally just standard American English, we just say argue, right? Argue. Boston is going to say argue, so they love to just get rid of the R and replace it with argue, argue. Whereas New York does more of a AW. It's more of like a argue, argue. I think this is a perfect example between Boston and New York. So Boston is going to say argue, argue, and New York is going to say argue, argue, aw. You also see this in words like army. You have army in Boston, you know. You were in the army. New York, army, army. So generally for a lot of words, we see this Boston, big, wide open mouth, a lot of the sounds. And then New York, we have smaller mouth. We have a lot more of the sounds, or, that kind of stuff, right? However, there are some exceptions. There are some times when it's kind of flipped, like the word cop and lot. The words cop and lot. Boston pronounces these words essentially like standard American English, you know, cop, lot. Basically normal, right? This is how I would say it too. Cop, lot, normal. Might have a little bit extra, you know, a little bit wider mouth, but it's generally the same. But New York takes this and goes really wide with it. And for some reason, they say cop, lot. So it's like, it's not even an O, it's like an AH. So they say lot, it's a cop, So I don't know why. For the most part, New York keeps a small mouth, but on certain words like cop and lot, they really open it up and they go cop, lot, whereas Boston just says cop, lot. So there are some words where New York actually does a bigger mouth than Boston, but I would say it's like the exceptions. I don't think it's like the most common. I think generally it's the other way, but there are exceptions. We see this also in the word soccer. So I say soccer as normal American English, soccer. In New York, they actually open it up. They do like soccer. So there are these examples where it flips and New York opens up wider and goes, and Boston doesn't. But there are, I think, even more examples of where Boston is opening up wider and New York is smaller mouth. But anyways, essentially that's the general difference between New York and Boston. There are probably some other like little differences, but that's the general difference, is like the mouth size. It's like the position of the vowels, you know, how wide you're opening your mouth and what you're doing with the sound, with the vowel sounds. That's really going to be the main difference. For somebody who is not a native English speaker, who is, you know, not from the US and doesn't have a lot of experience with it, they might not be able to tell the difference between the two, because they do have some things in common, like being non-rhotic, you know, not pronouncing the R. They often end words like you know, if it has an R. So just to end the video, let me do some phrases. So in New York, they're gonna say like talking. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Call your mother. Call your mother. So instead of call your mother. Call your mother. To showcase the Boston accent really good, really well, you can say, did you find your car keys? Did you find your car keys? Your car keys would be car keys. Did you find your car keys? We were talking about Star Wars. Star Wars. So not Star Wars, Star Wars. Star Wars. Star Wars, Star Wars. Another thing they do in Boston is instead of you want Coke or Pepsi, you want Coke or Pepsi. They might say you want Coca Pepsi. Coca. Coca Pepsi. Some words are really funny in the Boston accent, like instead of divorce, they say divorce. We're getting a divorce. We're getting a divorce. So we always laugh at my grandma because instead of saying the word for, she says foa, foa. So yeah, some of the words they say is really silly sounding. It's really funny, but it's good. It's entertainment, and it's slowly dying. It's dying out because nowadays the young generations, we tend to have a more homogenized standard American English like me. Like even though I grew up in the same place that my grandma grew up, I don't talk anything like her. And my mom was like in the middle between me and my grandma. So I can see in my family and in other families too, and other people, that the accents are kind of dying. They're kind of decreasing. And standard American English, this kind of homogenized standard American English that you're going to hear most of the time on social media, you're going to hear on the news, you're going to hear in like most media, this is becoming more normal. And the only times you're really going to hear these unique accents, like the New York accent or the Boston accent, is if you watch a movie that takes place in that specific kind of culture and place where there's an accent like that, or you are living or you go visit those specific places where there's a lot of people like that. But even you could go to New York and Boston, and a lot of the people who live in New York and Boston are either not from there or they did not get that accent, right? They just grew up kind of imitating a more neutral accent. So they didn't actually learn to talk like that. So there are these people, they exist, and there is media, there are movies and stuff where you can witness these accents, you can experience them. But it is decreasing, and it's generally not something you're going to have to encounter most of the time. So this video is mostly just for like fun and entertainment. And if you're interested, it's not really to make you like worried about your English learning journey and like, oh no, now I have to learn these accents and stuff. You don't have to learn to understand these accents. If you don't understand these accents, it is no problem at all. You will rarely encounter them. It's not an issue. If you want me to do other videos about other US accents, like Southern accents and stuff, that would be fun. I could do that too. I could try to do that. But most of the time, you just need to focus on standard, neutral American English. You need to focus on the way that I speak, this kind of way, this kind of pronunciation. That's really the main thing. The accent thing is for entertainment. It's fun to know, but it's not really like a big issue. It's not really a big concern, I think, for students, or it shouldn't be. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know what you think in the comments. And by the way, I offer conversation classes. If you want to take a conversation class with me and you want to practice talking in standard American English with me, I would love to do that. So the link is in the comments and on my channel page, as always. So see you in the next one. Bye-bye.